Welcome to the Lure Lab, where we dive into baits and techniques to help you catch more bass. The Lure Lab is a part of the Serious Angler Network, which is brought to you by Omnia Fishing. All the products that we discussed today that are available on Omnia will be listed below in the description, and you can save 10% by clicking those links below and typing in Serious 10 at checkout. Today, we have an awesome episode for you. We have Buck Mallory joining us from the National Professional Fishing League. And we're diving into a post-spawn episode, but this technique can be used all throughout the year. But we're talking specifically fry garters because, we have some spawning fish and some spawning already taking place in a lot of parts of the country. So I want to start kind of mixing in a little post-spawn stuff here for everyone down south who is tuning in. But we're diving into swim jigs and how to fish it and how to maximize your time on the water to put more bass and even bigger bass in the boat while targeting these bucks and males fry guarding and hopefully catching some pre-spawners in the mix as well, or big females on the bed. So anyways, let's get to it. All right, everyone. Well, joining us today is Buck Mallory of the MPFL, and we're going to be having a fun little conversation about swim jigs, right? Like, it's that time of year. They're effective all year, but some parts of the country are now entering the post-spawn phase. But I want to talk about how good they are all year round. But today's episode, right, it's specifically about targeting post-spawn fish that are fry guarding. And we were having a little conversation offline this morning before we decided to record, right? And we're like, let's talk about this. So really excited to talk about this, man. How's your year going so far before we get started?
Man, excuse me, man. The NPFL this year, we're only one in, but it's been a great start. I'm from the north. I'm in Michigan right now, just in case anybody doesn't know out there. And some of our lakes still have ice on them, so I haven't really fished since November. And I own a construction business, so I don't really get a lot of time to drive south, unfortunately. But with that being said, I started at Santee Cooper with a bang. I had actually set a record for the NPFL for the biggest five that was ever weighed in a tournament. Unfortunately for me, it was broken like an hour later, but a record's a record. We'll take it. I had 31 long.
They're meant to be broken, right?
Yeah, and I'm glad that I actually had a chance to hold it for a minute. I mean, it was sweet. 31-1. Ended up the tournament overall in ninth place after 3 days. My pattern kind of fell apart at the end, but I'm stubborn. I believed that there was another 30-pound bag there, and if it was, I would have won. It just didn't happen. I wouldn't leave to go find other fish as big as they were there. But great start to the year, ninth place in points. The rest of the season looks really good for the way I like to fish. I'm really excited for it. I think it's going to be good, man. I'm really fired up for it. And what we're talking about today is going to be some stuff that I think that we're going to be able to see around Norman. So I'm already kind of preparing myself for it. It's going to be good.
Man, awesome. So this is just getting those gears moving a little bit more and making you a little bit more excited, right? So I guess we'll hop right into like the heat of the questions. So post-spawn bass, they're not everywhere on the lake, but they can be kind of also everywhere. I know it's kind of cliche because they might be here and there, but they're not on everything. So what are some of the key signs that our viewers and listeners can look for to tell that bass are basically fully post-spawn or starting to enter that post-spawn phase?
I mean, so I guess it depends on where you live in the country. That's the hard part about let's say a podcast like this, because it does reach everybody in the country. But depending on what you have for cover in your lakes, that goes a long ways. Clarity of water goes a long ways. But what I look for, I go to let's call it like a spawning pocket, where a flat where fish are going to pull up and get in there. If I see empty beds, I mean, I run Humminbird 360. That gives away the grease. You can see the spots where they're spawning at. You pull up on it. If there ain't a fish there, obviously he's gone for a reason. They don't go far though. But a lot of people think they're gone. Now they'll go to like the next little piece of cover that's close. Sometimes it's a dock post. Some places it's just a little piece of grass. Sometimes a little piece of wood. Sometimes just a hard spot on the bottom that's close to their bed. Um, but what they'll do is they'll congregate in these little zones and they guard their fry. Like wherever they can feel like they can push it, keep it safe, keep it away from the predators, that's what they're going to do. Obviously, you're normally fishing for, I mean, most of the time you're fishing for males. But at this time of the year, at least in my experience, those are going to be the most aggressive fish. They're guarding those babies. They're going to want to do about anything they can to protect them. Are they really wanting to eat your swim jig when it goes by? No, probably not. There's a little bit like they would on a bed. They'll swat at it more, but they mouth the heck out of it and you get them. Like, and usually when they get it, they get it. And you can cover water. That's why I like to throw a swim jig for this tactic is I can kind of burn up the bank and I'll throw it at specific targets without even really, let's say, knowing that they're
Yeah.
guarding fry there. But once you get that pattern established that that's what you're doing, now you can go, oh man, I caught two or three off of this type of a dock pot or post. Man, they're in this little outside of the spawning flat. Man, I can go around the map then and go, that was like this here. I'm gonna go to this next one and check it out. Buzz over there with the boat, set her down. First dock, you probably catch another one.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's what I meant by they're everywhere, but they're not
yeah,
everywhere
yeah,
because you can go down a bank, right, with fry garters, and they could be literally on the dock post, on a hard spot,
yep,
on a piece of wood, a single broken dock pole, like PVC piping that's standing out of the water, but you won't catch them anywhere in between because they're still so target orientated that I have found, and I could be wrong, but it's like if you catch one, I usually just keep going with fry garters because there's probably not one within 50 feet of it, but then you get to that next piece that looks good, and it's like, oh, got another one.
yep. And you that exactly what you said actually makes a lot of sense too. So like when you catch one and once again, I'm using a dock post for a reference. There's a lot of things that would hang on, but like once you get the pattern of what they're actually going to be setting up on, you don't really, I mean, I'll still make casts, and that's another reason why I use a swim jig because I can cover the water, but like you can kind of turn it up and move until you see your next piece. Like
Yeah.
if it's vertical cover, like a post or a tree stump or a stick up or reeds. Sometimes this sit on the edge of those out, like the outside of those buggy whips or reeds. You can haul it, on high to the next clump. You're probably
Yeah.
not going to catch anything in between. So you can effectively cover water without having to make 1,000 casts, and you're doing very target rich environments. And so it's the law of averages. You make enough casts at that specific target, you're going to catch enough fish.
100%. So, what is the tall tale sign that you would say bass are fry guarding, right? Like, there's always that tall tale sign that they're doing that. Do you look for the fry specifically, or is it just the way the bass reacts when they bite?
So in the NPFL, I can't do this, which is going to be kind of unfortunate. I am a forward facing sonar enjoyer, but I don't really like it in the tournaments. But so in specifics, if I'm fishing a brand new body of water and I'm looking for that type of deal, I will use the forward facing sonar and I'll pick up those fry. You can see them really well actually on like a Garmin. It works out a lot better than what people know. Um, so with that piece of technology taken away, which is I'm okay with, then it's more or less just kind of covering the basics. You're going to look and see if there's any on beds. It's the time of year that they should be on beds in most of the south part of the country anyway. Um, if they're not on the beds, they're not far. They haven't left an aborted mission. It's not late enough for them to be way off the bank. They hang around town and they sit around those fry for longer than you think. I don't have a specific day, but I know that I've caught them that have been on that like fry garter pattern for a couple of weeks.
Oh, yeah, I would agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Like up here in the north, like New York, like I can grant the ice just came off of our lakes, right? It's March 27th. A lot of our water temps are in the maybe scratching 40 right now, but
Mm-hmm.
it seems like sometimes in April we'll have water temps that jump in the mid 50s like instantly, and we get a full moon. We'll have fish fry guarding the first week
Mm-hmm.
of May, and they'll be fry guarding all the way until the middle of July.
Yep.
So it's
Yep.
because fish come in waves. Everyone thinks a lot of them spawn all at once. So you
No.
could have fish pre-spawn, post-spawn, fry guarding, and spawning,
Yep.
literally doing everything at once.
And those little niche places, which are those little spawning pockets, spawning flats, that's the perfect place to target stuff like this because just like you said, there could be post spawners fry guard and there could be pre spawners pulling up to get ready to spawn, and those are also very aggressive fish. It's a great pattern all
Yeah.
around.
What a
You know,
wonderful time of year to be in the north.
to be anywhere. I mean,
Yeah,
literally,
it's
the
fair.
only difference is that I will say is when the water will move, like warm up faster, they don't do it as long. But you will have, just like you said, more waves.
Yeah,
So those places are effective, for a long time.
100%. So, I mean, I guess since we're talking swim jigs, what is your favorite swim jig, or do you have multiple favorite swim jigs? And if you have multiple ones, like why do you use and where do you use each one?
So the big thing is I'm not going to say I have a favorite. Like I'm not sponsored by a company that has them. I was. We just didn't work out our deal, and I run a lot of the what they have here. I'll put it up in the camera. This is an arc swim jig. Okay, I think you guys
Yep.
can see that pretty good.
Yep.
Um, this is a blue glimmer. I like the heck out of this one. This is a great one for the shad, for fry guarding, for shad spawn, stuff like that, all around, which is all relative to what we're doing there. I like the way their head's set up. It's got a nice flat spot on the bottom,
Sure.
and it's you can see it's bottom oriented with the weight. It keels it well. It sits it up straight up and down. It doesn't roll to the side when you're running it. I can burn this thing. I can roll it slow. It doesn't matter. It sits the way you want it to sit all the time. Um, a Dirty Jigs one is very good too. I run that a lot too. Obviously, very similar to the color wise. This is what I'm going to be doing down south more than anything. When I'm targeting like the fry garters, this is what I'm looking to mimic. When I come back up north, though, I do this one a lot, just the green pumpkin one. And I'll tip my trailer a little bit with some chartreuse. I don't have that on here right now, but um, because as you
Bluegill.
know, up here, bluegill will riddle bass beds
Yeah.
and bass fry, and the bass don't hesitate to swallow them. And if the water is clear enough, like when I go to Norman, if the water is clear enough, I'll pick this one over this one because there will be bluegills somewhere in that lake, guaranteed.
Yeah. So your primary two colors are white and green pumpkin.
Yep. And if it
And
gets real dirty, I have a black and blue too. I mean, that's going to be if it's super super dirty. You can't beat it when it does get muddy.
yeah.
It silhouettes better than anything. It's a natural presentation. It looks right. Um, Obviously, the profile is very similar to the others, but I'll throw on the black and blue one. I look for a little bit bigger, bulky trailer. Once again, though, it's just because I'm trying to isolate it better,
Yep.
make it silhouette better. Because really, when it's that muddy, all they're doing is it's a vibration thing and it's a reaction bite.
And then what size like is your favorite swim jig?
So that's variable. I run them from 3/8 to 3/4. If I'm running like the majority of the stuff when I'm fry guard fishing, I'm fishing like 3 foot deep or less.
Yeah, so
I
when would
will
you
not,
want to go to that 3/4? Like if you're almost like a ledge deal or like off the bank trying to keep it down?
so I'll run that like on deeper docks.
Got it.
A lot of the cover that I will cover just in general because it's easy to find is like specific docks on a lake. Bass will always be on docks. I don't care if it's March or September. They're on
Gotcha.
docks. And when you're breaking down new bodies of water and these places are big, one of the first places you should go to is docks. And that's tricky because some places they have floating docks, some places they're fixed.
Some places have a dock on every inch of the lake, like a
Yes,
lot of our northern lakes.
yes. And not every dock has a fish, but like
Correct.
that particular pattern is a very good spot to start. Um, I won Lake Winnebago in the summertime on the MPFL dock fishing. I mean, same type of thing. Just obviously, it wasn't a fry garter deal, but they were the exact opposite. It was bluegill beds, and that's a reversal. The bass will because the bass gets so riddled by the bluegill, they turn around and they riddle the bluegill beds.
Oh yeah.
It's game on. And when I went there for practice and I saw that there was a few, just like the first day of practice, I saw there was a few decent ones cruising. I knew it was game time. I was like, I know exactly what I'm going to do. It'll be a swim big deal, and I'm going to be firing around every bluegill bed there is.
Yeah.
So it was easy, but like that type of stuff really just clicks to me. I love to see them. I like when I can see them cruising. You could kind of get a lot more of their mannerisms, like the way they behave. You
Yeah.
could tell what they're doing. If you got clean enough water, your eyes will tell you if they're fry garden or not.
Yeah,
In the
because
south, it's hard to
you'll
find that
see
clean
all the
water.
little black
Yep,
specks floating around just below the surface, and you see a big one cruising near it, you know why.
yep,
But if they're solo up there, I find like there's bluegill somewhere nearby. Oh
hmm
man, they're gonna chew. Like one of my favorite things to do is get like on shallow flats with like sparse vegetation right after the post spawn, looking for bluegill beds because I know it's right there,
yep,
and you can just have a day fishing bluegill beds. And I feel like it's overlooked still by a lot of anglers because they go straight from catching them on the beds now to wanting to go forward facing sonar blast
yep.
them with a minnow offshore, right? That they just skip over probably. And I could argue is like the most fun way to catch them of the years
Yeah.
when they're chasing bluegill around.
Yep. And what's funny is so like both of us being in the north will probably understand this better than a lot of the guys. With us having the water as clear as it is up here, the bluegill spawn later,
Yeah.
deeper, a lot deeper.
Oh
So
yeah.
we just moved about a year ago, but where we lived on a little lake, very clean water, good grass. And I remember one night, and I had no idea about this. This was a learning experience, but took out the boat and we did like a booze cruise, just putzing in the middle of the night.
Nice.
We came back from the bar and we wanted to have the wife and I wanted to have a bottle of wine and before bed. And I was like, we'll fire up the boat. We had it on the dock. It was fine. And we idled around and I had my side scan going just to see because I mean I fished this lake my whole life, but you always can learn something new.
Oh,
And
especially at nighttime, you can learn a lot.
you could see your graphs really, really nice. And I remember I was like, I mean, we were out there like 18 foot, and all of a sudden I saw what looked like Swiss cheese. And I went, oh, I know what that is. And I just reached over and just hit a couple of dots. And, it's hard to get the reaction bite off the bass there because you're so deep. But I took a 3/4 round swim jig out there the next day, fired it up into him, and just drug it, and it just thunk. Yep, there he
Oh
is. And then when they're out there like that too, it's fun to throw like a 3/4 ounce chatterbait too. You can get
yeah.
it on the glass. But golly, do they eat it, man? When they get them bluegills going, it's a great bite.
Yeah, I won a tournament last summer on a bluegill bed deal, and we had like almost 24 pounds on a little bay I've never seen a bag like that come out of, and it was a special deal. I think we caught like 20 or 25 bass and 25 like 20 or 25 pitches with the same jig in the same
Oh,
spot.
geez.
It was just a tiny
Wow.
little bluegill bed, and they were all giants. It was
That's
unreal.
crazy.
Like
Dude,
both flipping them
it's,
in the boat, unhooking them, buddy runs and start calling them. And you already got two more in the boat.
yep, yep. Yeah, and when it's
Bluegill,
on like that, it's on.
yeah,
It's literally the greatest. And what I like about like a swim jig or a jig in general, I'm a jig fisherman at heart. And when I do that, I'll say like a chatterbait is a jig. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Anything like that with a
It's a
big
bladed
single
jig.
hook.
It's a
Yeah,
jig.
with that big single hook. I don't run it like a lot of guys run it on straight braid. I normally don't do that.
Yeah,
I don't
I'm
know
a
why.
foil guy too.
I'll at least put like a jerk cord. You know what I mean? At least a foot. I don't know why. I'm a big guy. I'm 6'3", 275. I run a good setup. I think it's a parabolic bend. It's got a good tip to it, but I still feel like
Before
I
we
really
get into your rod setup, though, I do want to know what trailers you have on those baits. Sorry, I don't
perfect.
mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. You're good. I just get to ramble and it's fine. This one here, this is just as for the folks on that's a Z Craw Junior.
That's a good one.
One of the reasons that I like that is I like to throw a menace. Okay, but like when I throw the Z Craw, I throw it so it sits like looks like a craw.
Goes
Really.
flat. Yeah.
Yep. And I do that right here. One, it's got a lot of little ribs here that displaces water, along with the tails, obviously. But when it's flat like that, it goes really good with the flat bottom of this, and I can skip the heck out of it. So if I want to put it up in something super tight underneath the dock, around a tree, around a bush, around a lay down, I could skip that thing up underneath there like nobody's business because it's got a good flat bottom.
Yeah.
That's the reason that I pick that one a lot. When I'm bluegill fishing, bluegill style, whatever, I run. That's a actual rage bug, Strike
Hmm.
King rage bug. Same thing. Super flat, super wide profile on the bottom. Skips like a rock. Great skipping. Every once
Like
in
a
a while, it
flat
depends on
rock. You don't want a curved rock,
yes,
like
yes,
a
yes,
round rock.
yes. Like To the kids that actually grew up skipping rocks on the river, you want the little flat guys.
What a time.
You
I
know,
miss that. I
80s
still
babies. You know what I mean?
yeah. I'm right on that cusp. I'm a 90s. So like I'm right at
You there.
90. Yeah,
So
we
I was
make
86, so we're not that far apart.
yeah,
But I still grew up skipping rocks. And I mean,
same.
this is essentially the same gig. It's just super, super flat, good wide bottom. I glue it because I will skip it hard enough and I throw it on a skip almost every time.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's the gist of it. When I'm swimming around like grass and I want it to look like a shad, I put like a menace on there and I put it straight up and down.
Hmm.
So it
The
actually kicks
Magnum or like just the regular
just a
Menace?
regular menace. So I honestly think that the Magnum doesn't have the tail kick that the normal one does.
Really?
That's an opinion. I
Hmm.
think it's because it's a little thicker.
You're probably onto something because the only time I fish the Magnum one is like if I'm not punching like braided line, thicker, not like super matted up milfoil, but thicker milfoil with a
Yep.
straight shake hook, and I'm flipping grass. Like I'll use that Magnum Menace just to try to get a bigger bite.
So I noticed with the menace. Now I throw a lot of Strike King stuff. With a menace, like just the standard one like this, I will throw this on almost every time that I'm using a chatterbait, blade of jig, whatever. This will be the go-to for me, but I have it sit the other way. I'll
Hmm.
flip it for that. I throw a lot on a swim jig. On a chatterbait alone, though, like I throw a jackhammer a lot, an Evo, whatever. Dude, that Magnum one's a great profile. It'll help it float better, but it doesn't get the tail kick. Like I watch it, I check it by the boat, and if I compare this one to the other one, it's literally apples and oranges. It's not even close. You just get
Interesting.
so much more movement. Now, like what you said when you're flipping and you have a straight shake hook, that Magnum one, when it falls real fast, them tails go like crazy. Yeah, but it's because you're moving it so fast.
Yeah.
But when you're like I call it loping or strolling a swim jig. Yeah, it's moving fast, but you're kind of floating it by the surface.
Hmm.
It doesn't get anywhere near the tail kick that this does.
Hmm. I like that.
And I will switch sometimes if it's like when I'm using it looking like a bluegill again. Um, on this one, I'll throw a craw, like the rage craw, just because it gets more tail kick. I like a lot of action. Once the water gets above like 55, you can have
More
all the
the
tail kick you
better.
want.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
100%. So now we'll step back, but kind of move forward at the same time. I want to hear all about your setup.
So what I run these things on, I mentioned it a little bit. I don't run them on straight braid very often. I will run it on braid because I don't like the stretch too much anyway, because I will, like, especially in practice when I'm covering water, I
Yeah.
bomb it. Like I'm throwing 120, 130 feet all the time and I'm running it, but I'll run it on a 7.3 or a 7.4 medium heavy rod. When I was with Arc, the rod exactly that I really, really love is it's an Invoker Tour. It's a mag medium heavy 7'3". Fantastic swim jig rod.
Mm.
Probably the best swim jig rod I've actually ever used. Um, but that action is what you want. Something with a little bit of tip that even though it's magnum, it's a medium heavy and it's got a good stiff backbone for when you belt them with that big hook. I mean, you got to have something to push through for sure. But you get like, let's call it 12, 14 inches of that rod that will let it just, whip over when you need it. What I like with that is when the fish grab it, it's kind of like a chatterbait rod, type of deal. You have a little bit of reaction time. You don't yank it out
Yeah.
of their mouth.
You as you're working your swim jig, you'll feel them bite it, but you can actually watch that rod tip load
Yes.
into the
Yes.
fish. Yeah.
Crankbait rods do the same thing. Cranking rods do the same stuff. You got to have something when you're moving. You got to have something that's got a little bit of give. Like
Yeah.
you'll yank it away from them, they'll feel you. I really don't want to give fish too much credit because they are dumb. I don't like to even announce this because a lot of people don't know it, but like I grew up and like my dad taught me how to fish, and he was, let's call it like a local guy. Obviously, never really went anywhere with it, but like big time tournament fisherman for our area, and he believed that like, man, you get a bite, you got to jump on him or he's going to spit it because he'll feel it. When I fish in like pro tournaments like this, I don't stick very many in practice. Like 80% of the time, I'm shaking them off or better.
Yeah.
And I've learned that, buddy, like you throw a jig or a chatterbait, even whatever, it doesn't matter. I'll throw this specific jig, and I put a rubber bobber stopper like right here, thread it on a little ways. I actually push it on really tight with a pair of pliers, so I don't accidentally hook them. and them things will grab that and
And
they will
hold on forever.
and swim and swim and swim. And then like you'll think you're out of the woods because they'll spit it. And you go to like burn it back to the boat and they snag it again because they think it's trying to get away from them. And then they swim around some more. I'm like, no, you guys are way dumber than I expected. You know what I mean? Like
They're not,
for
but
whatever,
they
like,
want it. They want it.
yeah, at 18 years of my life, I truly believe that like if that fish felt you'd try to pick up slack, he was gone.
Yeah.
And in
Like,
reality, they kill. That's their one purpose in life is to kill. And when you like, let's say you're looking like that's a bluegill, right? That fish is probably going to eat that bluegill, and for 3 minutes, that bluegill is going to try to get away.
oh yeah.
And so when he feels you pick up and move, he's thinking, you're not getting away. And he's just crunching down even harder. And I felt him do it. Like you could feel him really get it and really get it. And you're like, oh, he wants it so bad.
It's
And
like,
finally they're like, okay, I can't get it down. I'll spit it out. You know what I mean? Or you
like
shake it
this is
hard enough and he's like, okay,
endless
I'll let you go.
pressure. Yeah.
Like
Stupid.
in tournaments, I try to pull him to the surface so I can see him.
Yeah.
Like in practice anyway, I'll put pressure on them. I'll just wind them right to the boat. And sometimes they spit it before they get to the surface. Sometimes they don't. But when they do, like right at the surface, I'm like, oh, that was a 4. Good. And I'll mark it in my graph. It's like they do like, group together about in categories sometimes.
Yeah.
So,
I
you know,
find that especially true on a lot of our northern lakes here in New
yeah.
York, that like if you find a big one, there's a lot more. There's usually a few more to go with it. But if you're in like a school of 1 to 2 pound rats, that's all you're gonna catch all
Yep.
day.
Yep. And a lot of
So
them too.
yeah. Oh yeah. Always. For
It's a lot
whatever
of fun.
reason.
Don't get me wrong. We're spoiled with the wintertime that they like gets it so they don't get like pressured all year long for
Yeah.
sure. But when you get around, like we have great spawns up north, and like our hatches are great. It seems like the population just stays strong up here.
Hmm.
Um, but you can catch that 12 to 13-inch fish in certain bodies of water, like way more than you want to.
Yeah.
Like eventually, you're like, okay, I've had enough now. Let's find something better.
And it's a great practice though. Like if your confidence is down and you need to figure out a new technique and you're getting 13-inch bites, you're like, all right, I got this dialed now. Like because you're
That was
doing
what I
something
liked about
right.
the lake that I lived on, man. I could
Yeah.
literally, if I ever wanted to pick up something new and try it, you could get bit. Like
Yeah.
I could catch 70 fish a day, and I might not catch one over 3 pounds.
But it's fun.
Oh yeah, I mean there's great big ones that live there, but there was just not a lot. Like I think the biggest one I ever caught there was like a little over 6. But
It's a good fish.
um, yeah, now they introduced walleye there a few years back. I want to say it was like in the late '90s, and since they did that, now I've like I said, I grew up on this lake essentially. The big fish are not as many as there was since they put the walleye in.
Hmm.
I think that there's just about like the border of amount of food. And
Yeah.
I think the walleye are just a little bit more of a killer. I really do. It's just,
Mm.
I mean, that or the Chicago guys still eat too many of them. One of the two.
Could be that as well.
Yeah, I can't
So
really prove one or the other, but that's my theory. Is I noticed once we had big walleye, like when I would go out there and scope, I would go out there like in 90 degrees in July, and I'd go out in 30 feet of water and I'd see like 2 fish swimming. I'm like, those are walleye. I'd fire
oh,
out there with a Med rig and I'd catch like a
well,
32 incher. I'm like, yep, good walleye. We're eating. We're gonna eat good tonight.
heck yeah. So
So
now how do you fish the swim jig? Are you a shaker or are you more of like a straight retrieve, kind of like rod pump it, make it do different things when you're bringing it in?
I mean, I learned a lot of stuff when it comes to fishing from KVD, being from Kalamazoo. I mean, he'll
Yeah.
tell you no matter what he's throwing that you don't ever want to do anything consistent, and I'm a firm believer in that. Now, I don't do a whole lot of the Alabama shake. It's a great technique, but I have carpal tunnel, so eventually my shit's on fire.
Yeah, you're not going to last very long shaking
No,
it, right?
but I do a lot of stop and go with my reel, which flares it. I think
Mhm.
anything that makes it pop, flare, I try to, if I'm throwing around hard cover, I try to hit the cover because whenever it deflects, it makes them bite.
Yeah.
Um, Fish are reactive eaters a lot of times, and sometimes it takes banging into a dock post a little bit and flaring that jig. Sometimes it takes you stopping and going a little bit and popping the skirt. Little subtle things. It doesn't take a lot. I mean, you don't have to sit out here and crack it to the moon. That works. Don't get me wrong, but like you don't have to. You can. I don't want to tell you to go out there on 17-pound line with a 7-to-1 reel and just I'm going to do like, 30 turns a minute. And that's the perfect retrieve because there's no such thing. I don't think. I think that it's condition based. I think that pressure based, when I go down south, everybody does the Alabama shake. I
Right.
try not to. I pop it through the cover, but I'm not shaking it. Like if I'm going around like gator grass and stuff and it gets on top of it, sure, I'm going to pop it to let it fall down the next hole. But like to sit there and ridiculously do it all day long, no, I'm not into it. I'd rather let somebody else do it. And then if the fish are, keyed onto that, where that's a problem, I'll catch the ones behind them.
Yeah. I like it. I like it. All right. Ready for the last question, Buck?
Burn it down, buddy. I'm here.
Oh, as everyone knows, the Lure Lab is presented by Omnia. So our final question is the Omnia Juice of the Week. And the question is, why should someone choose a swim jig over some of the other fun techniques like a bladed jig or a spinnerbait while they're chasing fry garters?
So I think a lot of it has to do with situations. So like if your lake doesn't have a ton of pressure, I think you're better, like probably better off, honestly, to throw a chatterbait. But if
Yeah.
it's like a place that has a lot of tournament pressure and whatever, the chatterbait's so popular. It's really, really hard to want to use that after the spawn. Man, them bass have seen it for months and they've been beat up on it. They've been caught. They've been yanked around. It's a very, very, um, what's the word I want to use here? It's an excellent bait. It's very efficient. A chatterbait's very efficient.
It is.
Um, but what I'll say is this is a little bit more subtle and it's just a little bit different. And now I'll say the same thing about a spinnerbait. The spinnerbait versus a chatterbait is a little different. And I think though it's got a lot more pop as far as flash goes, it's a lot more subtle. There's nowhere near the chatter noise. It's quieter presentation. I think the fish will probably eat a spinnerbait over a chatterbait in the post spawn, in my opinion, on a pressured lake.
Yeah.
But that's the reason why I pick a swim jig. I like a spinnerbait a lot, but I think that being in the north, like I have a hard time shutting that off. Like the clear water stuff that I'm used to, it's hard to revert to anything else. I mean, this is what I fish, and that swim jig when it's just a little bit subtle, a little bit quieter, a little bit nicer, but moving still has the right profile. I really think that they'll hone on this a little bit more than they would a chatterbait.
Yeah.
That's an opinion. I can't prove it. I'm not going to try to prove it. I'll throw a chatterbait until I can't. And once I know I can't, this is what I put up the rest of the year. Like literally, if I go offshore grass fishing late summer, I'll pick up a chatterbait and try it at least. You got to keep it honest. But I feel like my bigger bites, when it gets to be the pressure's on, they've already spawned, all that's done. This is the deal.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're going to drag it. I don't care if you swim it. I don't care if you stroke it. The swim jig is going to be your bigger fish catcher in general.
Yeah, I think that's one beautiful thing about a swim jig is it's quotation mark swim jig, right? It should be like
Mhm.
the do everything jig because you could
Yep.
literally skip it underneath the dock and drag it. You can hop it, you can shake it, you can straight retrieve it. It doesn't matter. You can catch them on a swim jig
Yep.
however you want to fish it.
I
So,
had I had a subpar performance overall in the tournament, but I actually had a really, really good pattern on Wheeler Lake in a Bass Open a couple of years ago on a swim jig. And it
mm,
was literally what you said, though. I was fishing around eelgrass and hydrilla. When it was the eelgrass was more leaned over from the current. I would swim it pretty fast and they would come through it and eat it. And whenever I was getting it around the grass, like the taller grass, it was normally around docks. And I would fire it up underneath the dock, let it hit the bottom. I'd just drag it just a little bit, almost like you would in this normal jig, right? And then once I found out that nothing was chasing it to the bottom, essentially, I'd slow roll it into the grass and I would hop it through the grass, almost like stroking it. And it would just boom. And I mean, I caught good fish on it. Don't get me wrong. I just ran out of fish. I
yeah,
had a really good day one. I mean, 200 boats on that lake is not anywhere near enough space. But it was awesome. It was a great time. I mean, I would rather, like I said, I would rather throw this day in and day out. And the beautiful thing about us, just a jig, is there's no temperature that controls it. There's no weather pattern. You don't have to have sun. You don't have to have clouds. It's so subtle and so natural overall. Like you can do simple things. Like I said, I'll touch up the trailers almost always. Like when I'm throwing green pumpkin, I'll throw a little chartreuse in there, a little orange. Just depends on if some lakes have more sunfish than bluegills or shell crackers than bluegills.
yeah.
Match the hatch, obviously, right? If they're going to eat perch, man, I've been on St. Clair and caught some big largemouth on these things. Put a heck of a lot of orange in them for perch. Oh my god, smallies stroke it, dude. It's awesome.
Oh, yeah,
So like it's not just a largemouth thing. You know what I mean? I catch a lot of big smallmouth on a swim jig. I learned that trick in Champlain, New York. So
yeah.
it's
They
great
don't
time.
care.
There's some there's something about a smallmouth that comes out of cabbage in 14 feet of water and eats that thing at like mock Jesus. It's just great.
I think that's the best way to explain any type of smallmouth bite when you're power fishing.
They do too, man. It'll about rip the rod out of your hand.
Like it's crazy to me is like sometimes like it'll be like the most subtle bite and you're like and then you lean into them and it's like, oh god, like
Yep,
like
yep,
that
and
instant burst. It's like
yep. You
yeah,
stroke them and they come
smallmouth.
out of the water 5 feet. You're like, oh
Yeah,
my god, please don't come off.
there's just no chance.
You're
So
literally the most religious person that's ever happened. Like came across this earth as soon as you set the hook on a big smallmouth. Like
man, I
I'll tell
can't
you, I've
wait.
seen guys that like would really resemble like a pastor in the South. They're so religious when they stroke a big one on on a spinner bait or a swim jig,
Oh
whatever.
yeah.
You get a whole lot of Jesus in you when that's coming around,
No matter what you believe in, right? You just get a
right?
whole lot of belief.
Yep,
Like
absolutely. It's great.
oh man, I'm ready to go catch some fish. I think I'm gonna pick up my boat tomorrow. So those who are listening to this, I will have my boat home finally. So I'm pretty pumped about that. And all of our lakes are open except for the big one.
There you go.
So
Yeah, that's where we're at too. Same thing. So I want to, like as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I own a construction business, and we're supposed to get 74-degree weather tomorrow
you're
here,
going fishing.
and it's supposed to rain. I'm like, I hope it rains. I'm fishing. I'll throw
Yeah.
my rain gear out. I'll go fishing.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Like it doesn't matter. Like I prefer to go out on the crappy weather days, no matter how cold the weather is. They just bite.
They do.
So
They do for sure.
perfect. Well, Buck, I want to say thank you for coming on and joining us here on the Lure Lab. I know it's your first time. So thank you again, and we'll chat soon, my friend.
Sounds good, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate it. We'll see you guys soon. All right.
And that's a wrap, folks. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode here on the Lure Lab, as always, presented by Omnia. And I just want to throw a couple nuggets in there too for a couple of my favorite swim jigs. You have the Outcast Pro Swim Jig, which is one that I've been throwing for many years. They come in a lot of great colors, and also the Beast Coast. I forgot what it is. The Little Working Man's swim jig, like a 5/16 ounce. I love that with like a little boot tail on the back of it. So those are just two more additional swim jigs that are going to be linked down there in the description for you to head over to Omnia and check out if you wish. So we're going to close it up here. And I want to say thank you to everyone who has tuned in to this week's episode here on the Lure Lab. If you're new to the YouTube here, leave a comment down below if you love to swim jig fish. If you're not, hit that like button. We greatly appreciate it. And if you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, please leave a review if it allows you to do so. We greatly appreciate it, and we'll catch you all next week.